Hey guys, it's another day of spring planting. We're getting ready to go plant some corn again. It's a little bit cool. It's definitely windy out, so it is sweatshirt weather. But we're supposed to have a fairly sunny day, and we're gonna go pound some acres in. We did get a little bit wet the other day. We had 6/10 of rain. Seems like the fields have dried up pretty good. That actually helped to drive all of our frost out. So pretty confident that all the frost is out of the ground now, and we're gonna be ready to go here and get some corn in the ground, hopefully get finished up in the next few days. Okay, the planter is loaded, and we don't actually have any ground right now that's ready for planting. Dad's taking off right now. He's headed down the driveway. He's gonna head south of here and get a field ready to go planting. So he's gonna go run the field cultivator. We also got the roller hooked up. I'm gonna go through that, but right now, we got 700 acres done, so I'm gonna throw some grease at the planter because we haven't greased that for about a week now. So I'm gonna throw some grease at that since I've got time here. Okay, I got the planter all greased. The tires that are on the planter are checked. And one thing that's been driving me crazy on this tractor lately, it's not a big deal, and you can't really hear it, but there is a little bit of a leak in the exhaust manifold somewhere that I don't think is affecting anything. But it's getting the engine dirty here because it gets condensation in it, and it drips this exhaust goo down onto the side of the engine. And that drives me nuts. Nobody likes a dirty engine, so I wish I had a good way to get that off of there. WD-40 Specialist Industrial Strength Cleaner and Degreaser. Just gonna spray it on there, give it just a few seconds to soak there and see what that'll do. Now I got a nice brass brush that should help me get into some of the corners there and clean away on this a little more nicely. Beautiful. Much better. So we got the roller hooked up right now. I'm gonna get some grease on that and check the tires on the tractor, make sure this is ready to go for Jim to take later over to the field that I plan on planting. Oh boy. Man, there are just a ton of grease zerks on this thing. And every year there's several of them that won't take grease. If you guys work around grease and zerks a lot, you understand what I mean, where behind the zerk, sometimes the zerk will just get dirty and you can replace it. But behind the zerk, the metal wears just a little bit and you can't get any grease to go through there. And even pulling the old one out and putting a new one in doesn't do anything there because it's the metal behind it. So sometimes you gotta get in there with a drill bit and try and clean it out or whatever you can do. The good news is, all the bearings on the end of the rollers take every year. That's not a problem, so I can get plenty of grease in there. But I like to go through and in some of the spots where the zerks didn't take grease, I like to put some form of a lubricant that'll creep down in there, just so I know that there's something on that steel so that it's not rubbing dry steel on dry steel. There you can see where I tried to get grease in that zerk and it just wouldn't take anything. The good part is this joint doesn't move a whole lot, so it doesn't need a ton of lubrication. As long as I get something that'll creep down in there and lubricate this, that's gonna be good. I don't really like doing this. It's not exactly the right way to do things, but I really don't have another choice. Every single year we fight this with this machine, and I can't spend all day trying to clean out grease zerks. Okay, I got the roller all ready for the most part. Now I'm gonna hook this wire up to the screen and get Jim's auto steer going here. It'll make sure that the tractor trails between the rows so that we're not driving right over the top of the planted rows and compacting those rows. Figured I may as well clean up a bit here while we wait for those computers to load. All right, I got the computers all programmed for them. Just a couple more things to do out here. And then I'm gonna have to go grab lunch before I take that planter out to the field. All right, if there's one thing I hate, it's an unsightly land roller. I strongly believe that having an aesthetic land roller is very important to farming. And here you can see, we've got a seal on this hydraulic cylinder that's making a heck of a mess out of the frame here. Again, I wish I had something that would clean this up. Now this land roller is about 10 years old, and it's pretty difficult to back it into a building, and it's not a real important piece to put into a building. We don't really have a lot of extra building space anyway, so it is one of those pieces that ends up sitting outside, and because of that the paint is a little bit faded and a little bit chalky, so I'd be really hesitant to use any brake cleaner on this piece of equipment. But this stuff right here, I've been using it now for about 8 weeks. I have used it around the farm, and I think it's going to be a lot more gentle on the paint than what a brake clean would be. Found another one. Oh, that was nice. Stacy, it's Zach. I'll take a Western basket with onion rings. Thank you. Okay, Jim is behind me there. He's about to head out with the land roller. I'm gonna run into town quick, about 2 miles away, and grab my lunch before I get back and hop in the planter. But I just happened to look out behind me here to the west, and I didn't think it looked quite right, so I figured I'd pull up radar on my phone, just take a look. And look at what we've got going on here. I'm just gonna hope like heck that that holds off for now, because we don't need any more rain now. Let's go plant some corn. We clearly have rain coming on radar, but it looks like it's an hour or two away at least. This thing is beeping at me all the time. But the rain looks like it's an hour or two away at least, so we're just gonna go as quick as we can here and hopefully knock out what we can. This field is kind of in two pieces. There's 50 acres on the south side here that's pretty heavy, lays pretty low, always stays a little bit wet, and then the other 50 acres on the north side is on some pretty rolly hills. It's pretty sandy ground, so it's kind of one field broke into two really. And if we could at least get the south 50 acres done, would be nice before it rains, because it's hard to get this 50 acres to dry out. So we're gonna keep moving and do what we can, and hopefully that rain will just stay away when we can knock out the whole 100.
That the poultry companies were making up prices and manipulating the Georgia dock.
Chicken price fixing.
So what we've got going on in this part of the field is that the landlord grazes his cattle out here in the winter, and he sets his feeders out and feeds them cornstalk bales. And what they do when they eat those cornstalk bales is they spread really thick manure all over the ground, which is good for the soil. The unfortunate part is it got so thick in this area of the field that we weren't actually able to get it incorporated into the soil very well this spring. So I've got a lot of cow manure and some really thick cornstalk trash up in this area of the field, along with a lot of compaction from the cattle walking around. So what that does is it makes a really poor seed bed for me to plant into. So in order to help that, what I've had to do is slow down a little bit, and I'm bumping up the downforce on the planter, which is the amount of pressure that the planter puts down on each row unit in order to force that seed into the ground. The other thing I'm gonna do is go by here, and I'm gonna set our closing wheels just a little bit stiffer so that they close that seed trench up, because after the openers and the gauge wheels go by and put the seed down in the ground, these wheels come by and they close that seed trench in order to make sure that seed is covered. So it's really simple. All we do is adjust this arm, and that stiffens the spring, puts more tension on the spring inside here so that they ride a little harder against the ground. Thick cattle poop.
This is a Shark Farmer podcast with your host, Rob Sharkey. Whatever.
None of you ever get bored while your car is driving with GPS and decide you want the monitor here instead of there? Well, that's a wrap on this 100 acres. Well, I just finished in Starbucks. I'm bringing the tractor home, but then I got to bring Nate back down here to get the dually.
Okay.
So, and then I'll head home.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
The story of Brendan O'Regan, a former bartender turned entrepreneur who said,
well, it's 8 o'clock at night. We got kind of a late start because we were waiting on some of the dirt to dry. And we only got 100 acres in today, which is kind of what we expected. We knew would happen. And we're out of dry dirt again. So judging by what the fields look like now, Dad is thinking we're going to take probably the next day and a half off before we have dirt that's dry enough to go. Which makes sense because we didn't see any other planters going today anywhere in the area. So everybody's kind of waiting for it to dry up yet. We were just lucky enough we had 100 acres that would go, and we were able to get it in. But for now, we're just doing what we can, and we'll just keep at it and keep getting it done. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram as well.